Hello! Welcome to the end of February. And despite having over 300 books on my to-read shelf, and despite not actively going out in hunt of books, I have maybe purchased one or two by accident along the way, saved them from iniquity, located them unexpectedly. So this isn't so much a book haul per se and as such, it's more results of hunter-gathering in the wild. First of all, I'm going to start with Shantaram by Gregory David Roberts. This is not science fiction, and I was very much strongly suggested and recommended by three guys that I read this. They seemed avidly certain that everyone who reads this is going to love it. I'm not convinced, and it's enormous, but I'll give it a go. Jenny Wirtz. I don't know why, but I don't normally see a lot of Jenny Wirtz except for Daughter of Empire. That comes over and over again. But here we've got books 1 and 2 of The Alliance of Light, Fugitive Prince, and Grand Conspiracy. Now, I never was massively into Jenny Wirtz except for their Daughter of Empire series, which carried on from Feist's Magician. And I did very much enjoy those. And they're starting to become harder to find. They used to be everywhere, they're not. So I grabbed these two. They were pretty cheap. I can't remember how much, but they were in an op shop. So I grabbed that. I came across We of the Never Never by Mrs. Agnes Guns. This is in a vintage classic with a quite beautiful cover. I have read We of the Never Never before. I think it was written in 1902. It's very much an iconic fiction story written by one of the early English settlers who came out to Australia. And I haven't seen this edition before. I really liked the cover, which... Who did the cover? Cover image by Edwin Pererucha? Something like that. Beautiful image. I haven't read it for years. I thought I might want to again. Once again, out of science fiction range, and we've got another Penguin Modern Classics, The Crucible by Arthur Miller, which I enjoy and have read before, but not for about a decade. It's been ages since I saw that. And again, not in great condition, but I found it in an op shop and picked it up, along with The Monster's Room by Hope Campbell. I do like kids' books, and you don't see too many of the really old kids' books anymore. So when I see them, I pick them up. That one and The Grey Goose of Kilnavan by Patricia Lynch. This is a puffin. And someone back in the day wrapped it in plastic like the old school libraries in rural Australia used to do to keep it in good condition. And there is indeed apparently a goose. It's got all the sorts of illustrations that the really good old puffins used to do. And when I'm in the mood for them, it's nice to have a few brand new ones to read, because while I enjoy children's books and the classic puffins, I find that they don't reread well or often. The Shape of Water by Daniel Kraus popped up at some stage somewhere. I found it, and I have not read that, and I've heard good things about it. So yet another non-science fiction out there. Jack Vance. Jack Vance was always one of those authors I could never find any Jack Vance, and so I read through all the ones I had, and then I reread them, and now all of a sudden, for some strange reason, I'm finding a lot of Jack Vance. I found The Augmented Agent here with a rather nice little cover in New English Library. Copy in good condition by my standards. I read them. And also Night Lamp. I've never even heard of Night Lamp before. I have heard of The Augmented Agent, but I'm 90% certain I've never read it. And Night Lamp. I need to start reading through my Jack Vances because there's a lot of them. I came across in a op shop up in Brisbane, The Reassembled Man by Herbert D. Castle in Eclipse Books. I've never heard of this, and I've got to be honest, it doesn't sound terribly promising, but I just really like the fact that it was such an old book and I'd never heard of it, and I'd never heard of the author. And look at that cover art. I need to work. Reflection. That is actually texture that someone drew over it, and I need to work at trying to get rid of it. This top bit came off quite easily with a little bit of Elco wipe, but the rest is being persistent. And because it's old and the cover isn't in ideal condition, I don't want to risk taking it off. But you've got this fascinating man who's a bit built, but instead of a six-pack, he's got what looks to be a target-shaped musculature on his abdomen, and I'm as fascinated by that as the fact he's got a blank face. So I kind of couldn't resist that. It could be terribly good, it could be terribly bad. If you have ever heard of that book or read it, I am curious. Now, in the same op shop, there was so much Stephen King. It was like maybe a deceased estate donated it. There were piles of it, hardcover, paperbacks, everything. And I'm not a huge Stephen King collector. I particularly like the Bachman books, which made me find The Running Man very hard to resist. It's obviously based on the movie, at least the cover's based on the movie. And we've moved on from the Bachman books, no doubt about it being Stephen King here. But I haven't read this one for a long time. I don't own it. I do own The Green Mile. That's probably my favourite one. It's never left my shelf. And Thinner, a distinctly creepy Stephen King. But I decided I'd probably like to read this. I remember the book as being very distinct, very good in a completely different way to the movie. So they're two completely distinct stories, and it's long enough since I've seen the movie that I'm happy to. I also found The Dark Tower, Volume 1 of The Gunslinger. Now, my understanding is that this is Stephen King doing science fiction, and this is the number 1 in the series. Good cover, terrible condition for you collectors. It's all wibbly and wobbly and creased on the side, but that's fine for me because I'm just going to read it. I'll read this and decide if it's a series I want to keep going with. Then I found somewhere what I was really quite thrilled to, Austral by Paul McAuley. I haven't seen him being discussed anywhere on YouTube, BookTube, whatever, and that surprises me. Now, I actually read this some years ago. I found it in the library, and I was really fascinated by the notion of future humanity having been modified and incorporating specific genes to create one of the main characters as a husky, someone who's supremely adapted to live in the cold environments of Antarctica, even though Antarctica itself is warming and it's no longer as ice-locked as it is. So it's kind of post-apocalyptic, post-dystopian. I don't remember it too well. I'm really keen to reread it sometime, hopefully this year. And on a road trip that I've only really just gotten back from, up in Toowoomba, I was visiting this antique shop. You know when you see a hoarder's house and they've basically stuffed anything in, and as an excuse to not have to get rid of anything, they call it an antique shop? That was this place. But there were 2 small bookshelves on it. I had a great time there. Old Queenslander, very old, very saggy, but great. On one of those bookshelves, I found Safer Dead by James Hadley Chase. This is one of the, again, wrapped in plastic to protect the cover, so the cover's in good condition. So this is a thriller book club edition, and as I think anyone regular watcher of the channel knows, I've been getting back towards the Hadley Chases that I used to love so much. This particular edition was printed in Great Britain, and it's not telling me the date, which is annoying. He first published in the 50s, and I wouldn't be too surprised if this book is from the 50s. It's got that original gangstery artwork on it. And it is a hardcover, and I don't love hardcovers, but it's a smaller hardcover. It should fit on my shelves. So I'm very pleased to find James Hadley Chase. So that is my not book hauling book haul, my small amalgam of books found in the wild to swell my 300 heavy shelves of unread books. And I'm not expecting to get through any of these particularly fast. I've got a few others. I've got a couple of buddy reads I'm hoping to get to pretty soon. Got one planned with Ira for Half Past Human. We just need to tee up a time. I've got one planned with Chris from Liminal Spaces. Ira, that's SF Words of Wonder. Chris from Liminal Spaces. We're hoping to read The Mote in God's Eye. February. Where did it go? March. March is here. That's scary. And my reading plans have been confounded by more and more books. Thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed my mini haul. Hope you're finding good books, and I hope you're reading good books, because that's what it's all about, reading good